so you can just pen down that. Okay, so before to begin this class, I would like to say, if you are new on the Officers Adda 247 YouTube channel, subscribe the channel so that you can get regular notifications of our important lectures, and just download the Adda 247 application so that you can get everything at a one place, right? So let's start today's class with the very first question, and I just want that please just try by your side first, okay? And if you're finding anything is important, just note down that. Okay, so let's understand the question number first and just try to answer me what would be the answer of this question. A very good morning to all of one here, right? Okay, so just tell me what would be the answer of this question. The process of grouping of transactions of one nature is called what? Okay, and you know, whatever the questions I have taken in my slides, the very basic purpose of that, like I just want to tell you the concept behind every question. Okay, so just try to understand that. So when we talk about the process of the grouping of the transactions of the one nature, you can also understand the similar type of the transactions we actually, you know, classified, or say we actually just sorting in a one group. So that process is known as the your classifying. Okay, that is a very right answer that is given by the all. So if I say what the process is called, and you can also understand the accounting phases. Okay, so whenever we talk about the accounting phases, you are going to understand the very first phase, that is a recording. Okay, recording is a process like where the very first time the transaction is going to enter in the journal, right? After that, we just understand the another phase that is known as the classifying. Okay, and in the recording you can understand like the all type of the transactions that can be entered, that you are going to understand in the recording phase. And after that, the classifying phase, where you are just going to understand like the similar type of the transaction. Suppose that we are talking about the purchasing, selling for the cash. Okay, so you just do not have to, now you have to just, you know, now you have to just make a one group. Like in that group you are just going to make the record, or say you are going to make or record the transactions like of the similar natures. Okay, so when we talk about like the cash is included in the purchase as well as a sale, so you have to just put into this like cash account. Okay, for example, so this is just an example to understand. So first phase, that is a recording, another that is classifying, and after that the third step, the third phase, that is known as a summarizing phase. Okay, so for summarizing, you can understand it just you know, it is just useful for making the preparation of the final account. Okay, where we prepare the like preparation of the profit and loss account as well as the preparation of the balance sheet, right? So that all the process I just explained you, the process of the grouping of the transactions is called the classifying, and that is a very important that is a very important thing. And from the accounting phases, we often see the questions in the examination, so that is a very important to understand. Okay, now the just try to solve the second question. What is this? So second question is, while preparing the balance sheet of a company, accounts payable is shown under which head? Okay, so whenever we talk about the accounts payable, what we understand by the accounts payable? Anybody can tell me what we understand by the accounts payable? You know, whenever we talk about the accounts payable, it is considered as a short-term liability of a company. Okay, so whenever we are talking about the accounts payable, it is considered as an short-term liability of the company. Like you can understand the amount, or say like the goods that is just company borrowed from another company, another business, another person, okay, on credit. Then the amount that the company have to pay, that is known as a short term liability. So that is understandable as the account payable. Now, while preparing the balance sheet of a company, when we talk about the accounts payable is shown under which head? So can anybody tell me what would be the answer of this question? Yes, account payables, you can understand that is a short term liability, and whenever we talk about the short term, now you are going to understand that is known as your current liability. Okay, so that is the very correct answer of this question. The question of the second, that is current liability. Okay, so that is the correct answer. right? And when we talk about like long term liability, so what we understand by that, that is it is something like non current. Okay, so that if we just talk about like long term liability, so what we understand by the long term liabilities, so you can understand long term liabilities, that is kind of the non current liability. Okay, so that is a very important question from the exam point of view, right? Now just try to solve this question. This is a third question, and just tell me what would be the answer of this. So the very first thing that you have to understand, the whatever the information is provided to you in the question. Okay, so suppose that the question is about the average stock is given, closing stock is given. Okay, and closing stock in the some values given, like closing stock is a 3000 more than the opening stock, and you have to find out the closing stock, right? So just quickly tell me what would be the answer of this question. Anybody can tell me what would be the answer of this? Please try one more time. Please try this. This is a very good question. Okay, whenever we talk about the inventory, okay, because sometime in the question there would be also a term like average inventory is provided, so you have to understand that inventory is just equals to the stock. Okay, so like we are talking about the average stock, so you can understand average stock is nothing but your opening stock plus closing stock, and it will be equal to, and it will be divided by the two, and the value of that is given the 14,000 rupees. So the very first statement, that is average stock is given, so the average stock value, or say formula for the average stock, that is a opening stock plus closing stock, and it would be divided by the two, and that is equal to the 14,000 rupees, right? Now now it is given the closing stock, that is 3000 more than the opening stock. So how to solve this kind of the question? So from this, now you can understand the opening and closing stock, that would be equal to the 28,000 rupees, right? Now closing stock is 3000 rupees more than the opening stock. So when we talk about like closing stock is a 3000 rupees more than the opening stock, so you can now also understand like, closing stock, that will be equal to the opening stock plus 3000, right? So that will be equal to the 28,000. Now you will get the two opening stock, and it would be equal to the 25,000. Now the opening stock, that would be equal to the 12,500. So that would be the value of your opening stock. It is understandable for everyone, right? Okay, so if I have to just find out here, that is closing stock, so what would be the value of this? Now you have to understand like, here the closing stock, like the value of the closing stock is asked, right? Like in this question. Okay, so you actually just calculated the opening stock value. So some like, sometime the examination, like you will get the confusing option. Suppose that here it is written the another option, that is a 12,500, so you just do not have to just mark that. Okay, you have to find out the closing stock, and you can understand the closing stock is just a 3000 rupees more than the opening stock. So your answer, that would be 15,500. That is a first option, that would be the correct for this question. Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone just understanding this. Okay, so now understand another question. The cost of use of things or services for the purpose of generating revenue is called what? Whenever we talk about the revenue, so you often just understand a term. Just a minute. There is something problem, I think. Just a minute. Okay, now I think it is perfect. I think it is visible for everyone. Just a minute. Okay. So now you have to just tell what will be the value, what is the where we are, that is the cost of use of things or services for the purpose of generating revenue is called what? Okay, whenever we talk about like the same thing, like the cost of the use of the things, that means for generating revenue, there is always, you understand a term, that is revenue and the expenses. All right, So when we talk about the revenue and expenses, so you can understand whatever the cost, like for just generating the revenue, like if we talking about this is something, this is something, a product of any company, and product is just selling, okay, in the market. So whatever the revenue is generating from this product, okay, so whatever the cost incurred on that, or say whatever the expenses incurred on that, okay, we consider that also. So for calculating your cap profit and all things, so the correct answer, that would be the expenses. That would be your correct answer for this question. Okay, I'm hoping that everyone just understanding this, like the cost of use of things or services for the purpose of generating revenue, that is called your expense, right? Creditor of the firm is a person known as what? You know, whenever we talk about the debtors and creditors, we have to understand, suppose that there is a one person whose name is A and there is another person whose name is B, okay, and if we're talking about the debtor and creditor, suppose that this person A actually borrows a goods on credit from the B, right? So if this person A actually borrows, okay, so this will known as a borrower, and this will known as the what, this will known as the your lender, okay, because this B is actually provided the goods on credit to A, right? In the accounting terms, we also understand this is known as a debtor and this is known as a creditor. Now you have to just tell me what would be the answer of this question, because you already get the hint here. So creditor of the firm is a person known as borrows money from from the firm, so that would be the wrong. Supplies good to the firm, that will also just that is something correct, but here some missing, okay. We just do not know about like supplies good to the firm, so there may be some kind of the supply that some type of the cash, okay. We are talking about the credit, okay, because creditor of a firm is a person known as a the another option, that is a four, that is supplies good to firm on the credit. Okay, so that would be the correct answer here, right? So that's how we solve the questions. I am hoping that everyone just understanding this accounting, and you just getting confidence over day by day when you just watching this MCQ session, right? So now the next question, that every transactions has two aspects, debit and credit, under which of the following accounting principles? Can anybody tell me what would be the answer of this question as well? You know, when we talk about a principle, that is known as a dual aspect principle, okay. So whenever we talk about the principle that is known as your dual aspect principle, so according to this principle, we can understand like each debit entry, or say each debit transaction has its own credit transaction, okay. That means if we're talking about the for any transaction, okay, we are talking about the any transaction, and that may be any. Suppose that company purchases the 80,000 rupees furniture, okay, for the cash, right? So you can understand there would be one account that would be the furniture, another would that would be the cash. So there you have to understand, for any transactions there would be one entry of the debit and there would be another entry for the credit, right? So every transactions has two aspects, debit and credit, under which of the following accounting principle? So that the correct answer here, that is dual aspect principle. Okay. Due to this principle, you can understand every debit transaction has its own credit transactions. Now the next question, and this is also very important question in terms of the examination, because these kind of the questions you actually get in the examination in the 2 marks, right? And before to just moving forward, just hit the like button as well, because the likes are very less here, okay, on this video. Just hit the like button, okay. So just tell me what would be the answer of this, like opening capital is given, drawings are given, assets are given, liabilities are given, and we have to calculate the profit here. So how to calculate the profit, and like how we just determine the profit? You know, whenever we talk about a term that you can understand, like here the opening capital is given, okay. So when we talk about the profit, so let's understand by the example here. Suppose that we are talking about any financial year, okay, and we are talking about like financial year, generally financial, if we're talking about like for the banking companies, if I'm talking about, so that actually started from the 1st of April, okay, and ended on the 31st March, right? Okay, so if you're talking about like this financial year, so in this financial year on the 1st April, we the opening capital, and this opening capital will be the closing capital of the previous year, or say closing capital of the 31st March of the previous year. Okay, or sorry, 31st March of the same year. So if we are talking about the financial year, like the 31st March, when balance sheet and profit and loss account, all things are prepared. So you can understand on the 1st of April, that would be the opening capital for another financial year. So opening capital, we are talking about like this is the opening capital that is given the 5 lakh rupees. Now drawings are given, assets are given, liabilities are given. We have to calculate the profit. So how to calculate the profit? So you can understand this, if the opening capital we know and the closing capital we can calculate on the 31st March, or say on the ending of the period. So from that we can understand like what the profit we actually gain throughout the financial year. Okay, so this is the way we actually solve the questions. Now the very important thing I would like to tell you here, that when we talk about like we have to calculate the profit here, so you can understand like the opening capital is given already. Now the drawings are given, assets are given, liabilities are given, and that actually you can understand like when we just make the balance sheet. Okay, when we just prepare the balance sheet, where there would be asset and liabilities, so from that we actually can calculate the closing capital. Okay, so now the accounting equation, you can just write your assets, that would be equal to the liabilities plus your what that is capital. Okay, so now assets that is given, that is 8,50,000, liabilities that is given the 75,000. Now when we ask like what would be the capital here, so you will say the closing capital, that would be the 7,75,000, isn't it? That would be the closing capital for the company. Now you know that the drawings are given, that means 1,20,000 rupees, that is actually drawn from the business. Okay, and if we just add in this closing capital, so you can understand like this is also just a positive on this, like this would also just increase the capital. Okay, we are just talking about like what the profit is actually earned by the company. So now the closing capital, that is just 7,75,000 rupees. Now if I say drawings, that is given the 1,20,000, so that would be equal to your what, that would be equal to 8,95,000 rupees. So that would be considered as your total capital. Okay, closing capital. Now you started with the 5 lakh rupees, like you started the financial year with the 5 lakh rupees, and till now you have 8,95,000 rupees. If we just add the drawings as well, so you can understand, if we just subtract in this 5 lakh rupees, so your answer, that would be the 3,95,000 rupees. And that's how we solve the questions in the examination. Okay, I'm hoping that you are just understanding this, and this equation is a very important equation, and this equation is so much helpful in the module C. Okay, because you are going to get multiple questions solve, you are going to solve the multiple questions based on this equation. Okay, so I'm hoping that you are just understanding this. Okay, now the next question, that is given, the total assets are given, total debts are given, current liabilities are given, and the debt equity ratio we have to calculate. In the ratio analysis, when we talk about, you just do not need to memorize any ratio. If you just watch my sessions on the batches, okay, so you can just relate to this kind of the questions pretty much well way. Okay, so if I talk about like debt equity ratio, what we understand by the debt equity ratio, that would be equal to your what, that would be equal to the long term liabilities of the company. Okay, long-term liabilities, and it would be divided by the shareholders fund, or say company's capital, you can also understand. So here we are just writing the shareholders fund, right? Now, the long-term liabilities, if I have to calculate, so you can understand here that long-term liabilities is also understandable as a non-current liability, and the total liability is already provided to you, and the current liabilities is provided to you. So now, if I have to calculate the say non-current liability, so what I have to written, we have to just write here, that is 1 lakh minus current liability is, that would be the 50,000. So now the non-current liability, that would be equal to the 15,000. Oh, sorry, 50,000. Okay, so that's how we actually calculated the non-current liability, or you can also understand the long-term liability. Okay, so that would be equal to the 50,000. Now we have to just also find out the shareholders fund. So how to solve this like shareholders fund, how we can just solve the shareholders fund also, we also have to understand this. Like, so now if I'm talking about like we have to calculate the shareholders fund as well. So now again we have to use the like equation, accounting equation, that is asset is equal to liabilities plus capital. Okay, capital also shareholders fund. Okay, you can also say that the shareholders fund. Now the asset is given here, that is 1,25,000. The liabilities are given, that is 1 lakh. Okay, and we have to just find out the shareholders fund. Now if I ask you what will be the shareholders fund, so you will say that is 25,000 would be the shareholders fund here. Okay, now the only thing that you have to put the values here, like 50,000 would be divided by the 25,000, and that would be equal to the 2:1. That would be the correct answer of this question. I'm hoping that everyone just understanding these all the concepts, right? So okay, now the next question, that is we have to calculate the cost of goods sold, and all the information is provided to you, like opening stock is given, closing stock is given, purchases are given, and the other expenses also given. So how to calculate this? You know, the very first thing that we know, that the formula for the cost of goods sold, that is equal to your opening stock plus closing stock. Like when we talk about like opening stock plus, sorry, just a minute. Okay, so when we talk about the formula for the cost of goods sold, it is all about the opening stock plus purchases plus expenses minus closing stock. Okay, so when we talk about, we have to just calculate the cost of goods sold. So you can just now understand, the opening stock is given the 1 lakh. So just write here, that is 1 lakh, and it would be plus by the purchases. So purchases, that is given the 15,000. So just write here 15,000. Expenses are given the 35,000. Just write the 35,000 here. Okay, minus closing stock, that is given the 20,000. So just minus this. You know, you can just solve these kind of the questions if you just know the formula. Okay, and you can just understand by this, like cost of goods sold formula, that is opening stock plus closing stock, sorry, opening stock plus purchases plus expenses minus closing stock. That you have to understand, that is a minus closing stock, because cost of goods sold just refers to the cost of sales. Okay, so whenever we talk about the cost of goods sold, you have to understand it is nothing but a cost of sales. So that's why opening stock minus closing stock, you have to always memorize. Okay, so when we have to just solve this, you can just solve this question like 1 lakh plus 15,000 plus 35, that would be equal to your 1 lakh 50,000 minus 20,000 rupees, and that would be equal to the 1 lakh 30,000 rupees, and that's how we can solve the questions for in the examination. All right, now just solve another question, that find out the value of the average inventory from the data given below. Like in the previous question, I already explained you that whenever you are just watching the term, that is the inventory, the stock is given. So you have to just understand, inventory is nothing but a stock. Okay, so you just never have to be confused, like you just thinking about like the another formula that you have to memorize for this kind of the questions. So if you have to just calculate the average inventory, you have to understand average inventory is just equal to your what, that is opening stock plus closing stock, and it would be divided by the 2. That's it. Okay, and you know, these all are the information that is given, that is a useless for calculating this average inventory. And this, you know, this is the actually benefit you are going to get when you just learn everything with the very basic. Okay, so if you just strong with your basic, then no any question just disturb your data, just disturb your concept. Okay, so you have to very strong with your basic concepts. Now if I have to calculate the average inventory, so that would be equal to the opening stock plus closing stock, and it would be divided by the 2. So if I'm talking about, this would be 50,000 plus 80,000, and it would be divided by the 2. So that just calculate what will be the value here, that would be the 1,30,000 divided by the 2. So this will be equal to the 65,000 rupees. Okay, that would be your correct answer for this question. So now just tell me like how was this session? Are you guys just enjoyed this session? And if you just enjoy, just hit the like button as well. Okay, and how many marks you all just got in this 10 MCQs? if you just got, let's just tell me, like if you just got 6 to 7 marks in this, then that means you are just working hard. Okay, so that means you are nice on your preparation. So just keep it up. Okay, and the very important thing I would like to say, for you can understand this accounting subject all about to understand the basic concepts. And we have a so much less time on the YouTube session, so you can understand in the batches. Okay, whatever the batches we actually taken, where you can just understand everything with the very basic concepts. And whatever the questions, whatever the things we are going to discuss in the batches, that all based on your that all based on the fully exam oriented classes. Okay, so in this batches you are going to get the three Macmillan books if you just enrolling through the like the batches with the books. Okay, and 84 mock test, 82 e-books, as well as a 130 hours live classes. And the very important thing that you will get like quality content here, right? So that is also very important for your clearing examination. And we also focus to prepare you not only for the 50 marks but also with the 60 plus 70 plus marks. Okay, so just enroll fast. And the very important thing I would also like to say, you just do not need to pay the full amount for these batches, or say for any mock test e-books, right? So you just do not need to pay the full amount. You only have to use the code, that is Y422, and with this code you are going to get the big discount on the batches, right? So just hit the like button as much as you can, and just share this video to your friends, to your colleagues, so that maximum number of our bankers can join with us. And just subscribe the channel so that you can get regular notification from our side. So thank you everyone for joining me here.